Welcome back to the Working Audio Tools podcast, the home of mixing and all things audio. This week we have a very special guest, someone who is very close to the podcast, in particular the maestro, Mr. Paul Third himself. This gentleman is a multi-award-winning mixing and mastering engineer from Turkey, but based in Sweden. He's a master of headphones. He has his own plugins, which Paul and I both use, and we can say they are absolutely brilliant. And we are going to today be picking the brains of Mr. Emrah Celik. This episode is sponsored by Baby Audio, the maker of creative instruments and effects for music production. Baby Audio plugins are all about solving problems and adding character to your mix, from stylish heavy compression with the IHNY2 to dynamic resonant control and suppression with Smooth Operator. Head over to babyaudio.io to learn more about their extensive range of plugins and get 15% off any order with the special Working Audio Tools code that we have got generated on your behalf, WHAT15 at checkout. There'll be links in the description below. Welcome to the podcast, Emrah. It's great to have you.
Thank you, man. It's good to be here.
Right, so let's get into it. Let's get straight into it. So, your plugins, Emrah, because I know everybody has been using them. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, they are WA Productions and they are incredibly cheap. But Emrah, could you tell everybody why they're so cheap? Because they're not cheap for anything to do with for quality, but there is a very kind of, which I think is very modest reason and a very humble reason why they are so incredibly well priced.
Yeah, people keep asking me why I'm working with WA Production, because it fits my needs. You know, their pricing policy, it's just perfect for me, because I always search for company to deliver cheap product. Not product is cheap, but pricing is cheap. Because remember back in days, I was struggling with buying plugins, and I always went to cracking, and you know, it was just hard times for me, because nobody came to the life with a lot of money. You know, we are not that lucky. I don't want to sell plugins for nonsense pricing, right? That's why I work with WA Production. They are basically a label for me, and they support everything I do, and they believe me. What I do is just create premium plugins at pretty reasonable price. Just the way I feel right. You know, I don't want to pay a plugin. I would never pay today, even if I have money, $299, $349 for a plugin, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Pricing's crazy. A thing that's very close to home for you is also like something you tell me all the time, and I think it's crazy, is that in your hometown in Turkey, it's crazy the pricing compared to what we have here. So for anybody that doesn't know, what would be the equivalent to say, you know, say like if a plugin costs 50 quid for us, like how much maybe that would be for somebody and the equivalent in Turkey?
Yeah, nobody cares about the other countries, you know. It's always Europe and States and some rich Asian countries that can purchase expensive plugins. The rest of the world is just left in the dust. I don't want to be one of them.
Yeah.
I just want to produce something good, premium, and when they look at the price, that's cheap, right?
Yeah,
so they don't have to crack it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'd never considered that, because if you were paying, say, for Soothe 2, which is what, £179 or £139, if you live in India, that's probably a month's wages.
Yeah, even more,
which
probably.
Is insane. If I were to say, yeah, a plugin might cost me, you know, £2,500 to £5,000, you'd be like, no, are you serious? So what you're doing, Emrah, keeping the plugins cheap, and when we say cheap, for those who don't know these plugins, we're talking like, what are they, 11? I think £16, I think.
Yeah, the
maximum for Kickshaper.
Maximum was 15, maybe 16, something.
And Kickshaper is a wonderful plugin. I use it on kick, toms, bass, and I'm sure I had it on something else the other day. Can I ask you a question about that? Because every time I load Kickshaper, it seems to have come up with different settings. Is it reading the audio, as it were, before, well, as it's loading? Because it just seems to come up with the right settings straight away.
No, it's just the default settings, initial preset.
Right. So the initial preset is just right for everything. Okay, great.
If it sounds right, then it's working. Because even if I created initial preset, and when I created initial preset, I tested on over 500 kicks to see, if it's really work.
You actually went through 500 kick drums.
It's more than that. It's just thousands of kicks when I created it. Yeah.
And I think for many people that don't know Kickshape, I know there is videos that I've done with Emrah on my channel.
Yeah.
One of the greatest things that I love, and it took me time to really understand what I was doing, was that deboom knob. And I ended up making a whole video about, how important the sustain of low frequencies is and how really much that could kind of drown out a lot of your mix. And it's crazy how, just because it's Kickshaper, you think, oh, I need to use it on kick. As Ed says, I've used it on toms, but especially on bass. I always find myself on kick and on bass using deboom and just using my ear. And that's something that I think Emrah was very, very, he found very important when he was making his plugins, that a lot of people like, to have numerical things. And I'm kind of like that as well a little bit. But Emrah said to me, Paul, when I made these plugins, it is all about your ear. I'm going to give you the tools that allow you to just basically turn a dial or a knob, but you have to use your ears. I think that is something that's great about all of your plugins. You've got Kickshaper, Dynawide that I was using for the first time this week. It is now the kind of plugin for me for bass when you want to widen bass. I was using Stage 1 for that, but there was a preset that you've got, and it just did a perfect job. It just did exactly what I wanted it to do, but it just took the bass, widened it, and then gave that kind of room for the kick in the middle. I think I used it on piano. I even think I used it on a synth. And then there is de-res that I think is just a great plugin. In terms of de-res, Emrah, for anybody that's never used it, I know it's all about keeping things natural in music, but it's amazing to me the clarity. I think you would sometimes call it freshness in terms of when you take those nasty resonances out. And normally it's only like one resonance, and then again you've got an octave bit, so you could take more out. Obviously octaves up. What was the whole kind of conception of de-res for you?
Yeah, actually, it was starting with the dynamic EQs, right? And plugins like Suit and Rezo and everything. It was just making things dark. You remove resonances to make it more clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was opposite. It was just making things darker, and I didn't like that. I'm not saying they are bad plugins, but they have their places to be used.
Yeah, I agree.
But when it comes to clarity in audio, I agree with people that you should keep your resonance, but make sure it's natural resonance, right?
Yeah.
In a room. But sometimes when we record something in microphones and in the room and everything, there are some certain frequencies, especially between 1 and 8K, make things more unnatural. When we speak each other face to face, we don't hear any resonances, right? It never disturbs us.
Mm-hmm.
If I speak with Ed in a studio, he shouldn't be bothered by my voice and oh, you have too much 2K resonances. You don't say that. And when you remove, there is always at least one single nasty dominant resonance that you have to get rid of due to nature of recording or production or sound design. And the moment you remove it, things get much more clean and clear without losing the nature of the audio. It's like more natural to my ears rather than chopping up the audio, like 5-6 dips and you remove everything and notches out everything. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, you can use it absolutely. There's no right or wrong. You can absolutely chop an audio, while creating 5 more filters. But that's just a decision, right? But if you're looking for a natural way of creating some clean audio, then it's all about removing the most nasty, most dominant resonance, the frequency range between 1K and 8K. That's where you're gonna get clarity.
And it's crazy how I remember, especially when I was on piano and I was on the strings on a session, when you take it in and out, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can't believe I didn't hear it as clear as that before. And it's only when you take it away, you're like, oh, wow, that resonance is screaming. And it's like a horrible, nasty tone. And it's amazing that it's only when you take it away, you really notice the difference. It's crazy.
Yeah, you keep saying that, oh, I didn't hear that. Even if seasoned engineers, right? Like you have 40 years behind the wheels, right? Doesn't matter. You don't hear because you are too focused on different things. But duress giving you that critical listening by boosting the frequencies, and people think that when you boost something too much, everything sounds resonance. No, a nasty resonance is sustained resonance. It keeps like whistling, right? It's keep resonating and just dominating the audio. That's the nasty one. Just remove it and you have the clarity. Super simple actually, and super easy to use. And I always wanted to have something like that because we are coming from the analog world that people actually use that boost to AQ, 15 dB, 20 dB, and then cut, right? Sweeping. This is just an easy tool. It's you want to use it on every channel.
What I love about Kickshaper is there's so many things. You've got your D-boom, which is essentially controlling the sustain of your low end. And then you've got tail. Now, tail is something very interesting because I had a DBX subsynth because I didn't like any plug-in subsynthesizers. And then you came along to me with this plugin. I was like, right, what is it for you that gives you a better sound using a resonant filter for the low end that kind of enhance those subs over, say, an actual sub-harmonic synthesizer?
I'm coming from a DJ world, festivals and everything we did was just matching the two kicks, syncing two kicks and mixed tracks. People have pitch perfect, right? You just cling something and they will hear and they will tell you the notes of that sound.
Yeah.
I think my ears are just too sensitive for timing and phase. Whenever I use synth generators, sub-synth generators, I always felt like it has timing issues. I had to fix it, right? It was just time consuming. And I had to find something else to add that tail to the kick or audio. And this is where you resonate the filters. It's just the opposite way how duress works. It's just narrow filter, just boost it, and it's going to give you that resonance. I always use that technique when I was mixing kicks and stuff. People will probably afraid of doing it. If you see me doing that, you will think that I'm crazy. But that's how it's worked. There is no timing. There's nothing you can control. It's just a pure resonance filter, and it's resonating with the frequency, the root note of the kick, and it's just gonna sound more natural to my ears, and it's gonna fill the kick with that lovely tail.
I agree, because as soon as I started using that, I was like, this sounds better. And I love the way how when you've made the plugins, that's the way you've made it very descriptive. So when you're using it, this is kind of what you need to do. Very short descriptive words, which I think is the best way to kind of see mixing a lot of times, is trying to not make it as complicated as I normally have tended to complicate things in the past. Again, I use Vocal Shaper on every vocal I do. Now, tell people a little bit about your leveler in there. So what really is your leveler doing as opposed to, everybody's, most famous plugin, which is normally Arvox?
For me, I have tried everything. It's just the best leveler I have ever tried or used. When you're gonna mix vocals, I always tend to level everything at minus 10 dB, right? The way it works is just it's level independent, and it matches everything to the minus 10 dB. That's the key point. It doesn't compress anything. It doesn't just do some weird things, just closing the gap between softer passage and higher passages in volume.
So is it doing like what Wave's Vocal Rider's doing?
No, it's completely different.
Okay.
It's always reading a white noise behind it. And it compares white noise minus 10 dB ping noise and your vocal and does matching the level matching. It's just way better than doing writing.
Right, okay.
To me.
Yeah.
You understand, right?
Yeah.
There's a white noise always present, but you don't hear it. It's just compare the white ping noise to the vocal level, and it's just making the ride, and that you get a pretty solid vocal level after all.
This does make Paul's vocal sound make sense.
Yeah, you understand, right? It's just it's just magic, man.
And it's a lot easier than fiddling around with Vocal Rider and playing through the whole song.
That's
right from the automation, and if you get it
you
right,
don't
you
have
do
to
it again. And
yeah, just I'm adding it to a channel and just freeze the channel, and I get pretty constant vocal levels, just like that. Super simple. It's pretty fast.
Amazing.
And what about demud for anybody that wonders what demud is doing?
Yeah, it's pitch tracking, low end pitch tracking, between 60 and 320. The most, the due to microphone recording or room resonances, it's just pitch tracking the vocals, and it's just notching the resonances in both. Either it's dynamic, depends on the level how much you want to go. The more you go, it's more static. But if you keep it somehow, it's 20% or 30%, then it's gonna be more like dynamic. Yeah, it's just like flag race. It's just taking from the dynamic to the static. Then I mean, every plugin I do has some kind of engineering behind it. For example, the de-esser. I don't know why nobody doing this kind of de-esser.
I told you, Ed, about this like a year and a half ago.
In Vocal Shaper, de-esser is not de-esser. It's S volume. It's separate. It read the S's, and it's separate from the vocals, and just you have the control. If you're a lips, if you're a lips singer with lips issue, you can have more S's. Show me a de-esser that you can have more S's in a natural way, because it nulls even if you use de-esser, it nulls with the processed and unprocessed vocal, and you just turn down the volume. I don't know how many times I do manual de-essing. Find the S's, gain, and you find the gain reduction, and try and listen, and every time. And this is just straight off the box, and it's working. Just turn down the S's. There's no way it's just compressing or just creating weird, nasty, lispy S's. It's more natural to my ears. It's not de-esser. So
what I love about it is that it's essentially a linear de-esser, because there is no compression going on.
There is no compression.
And I think I remember when you told me about it, because if anybody doesn't know, me and Emrah both have M-XXX. So Emrah was making a lot of these ideas in like an M-XXX first, and then again like you got it with WA Productions. And I remember when he taught me about this idea, and I was like, I could do it the manual way, and obviously there was a manual way of doing it. But the issue was you would need something like probably FabFilter, the de-esser, because you need something that can solo just purely the S's. And then the whole part of it, there was basically a thing where like if you were isolate them, print the track, and then flip the phase, and then isolate it, and then have them on a separate track. But with Vocal Shaper, you don't have to do that. It's the best de-esser I've ever used, because genuinely I just go to the S's and I just go, there I go, and I know that's where the S's live.
If it's a de-esser, it's the only de-esser that de-de-ess.
Yeah, I get what you've done there.
So for anyone listening wondering, what are these amazing sounding plugins? They are all available for a free demo on the waproductions.com website. And we do highly recommend that you guys get onto those. DistroKid sponsor the Working Audio Tools podcast, and you can get 30% off your first year's subscription using the VIP link in the YouTube video description and podcast show notes. DistroKid makes distribution of your music easy with unlimited uploads, and you get to keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. Join over 1 million artists who rely on DistroKid to get their music into Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all other streaming platforms now and in the future. The new DistroKid app is available on iOS. Go and download it from the App Store now. From here, you can upload new releases. You can see your DistroKid earnings and withdraw these earnings. You can view and share your hyperfollow links. You can check your streaming statistics from Spotify and Apple, and even add and edit lyrics and song titles. So keep track of your releases on the move with the new DistroKid app, available on iOS. Download it from the App Store now. We have a lot to cover, so let's move on and discuss headphones, because there was a week when we were doing the podcast under the Produce Like a Pro guys. Those episodes are still live, apparently. And there was one week when Paul chatted with Emrah in depth about headphones, and it has gone on to be the discussion on YouTube about mixing on headphones. And I believe there may be some updates that you need to fill us in on, Emrah. Is that correct?
Yeah, probably. I have to tell people that I'm working on something pretty amazing. You are the current beta tester.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I call it engineer curve. And it's all about making things translate. It doesn't have to be sound too good, something too lovely. It's all about what you hear, you have to trust.
Oh, so is this like a Harman, like an EQ curve for headphones that's not Harman, which is
Harman,
pleasing?
Yeah.
Okay, based on Harman, but the translation curve, that sounds fascinating. Now, question, is it going to have the 9 decibel discrepancy that is in the low end that Harman has? Or is it going to be literally a fixed line, and that is going to be the Emrah Celik industry standard headphone curve?
Now, it's what you see on Harman, the boost on the low end, it's actually what makes it flat, how you hear in the studio. Because
but the range from the agreed range, I think, from all the engineers they tested, had a 9 decibel discrepancy from those who thought it was like plus 3 dB and those who thought it was plus 12.
Yeah, it's actually, if you measure a headphone and in a measurement, if it looks like pretty flat, right? It's more like diffuse field, and you should have in case of diffuse field, you have to have 10 dB tilt. It's same in the speakers, right? If you measure a speaker in an anechoic chamber, it has to be flat. When you have it in the room, it has to be 6 dB tilt. That's why I don't use SonarWorks or something else, or you know me, I don't use correction for my speakers.
So what you're saying is the 10 dB peak that I have in my room is actually a good thing?
It's not a bad thing,
right? Okay.
Actually. I saw your measurement. Sorry.
Sentiment.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's the decay time where this room is good. But yeah, the 10 dB boost and 10 dB null.
It's not that horrible as you may think. It has to be tilted. Your low end must be 6 dB tilted compared to the high end. This is where a real studio sound. And if you use a speaker correction system and make it flat, it's gonna sound bright.
Which it does, yeah. That's true.
Is that why Arc sounds so bright in
default
flat mode?
flat?
Well, default changes it slightly, but not anywhere near 6 or 10
No,
dB.
what I'm using now, I'm actually using it's the control room contour, which is what Emrah says. It's like a lift,
yeah,
and then it does that. So it's like it decreases the high end, and then it kind of does that. For anybody that's listening to the podcast, it's like I don't know, it's like a Mexican
Paul is
wave.
gesticulating wildly again, waiting for fireworks to go off in the background of this video.
And I can confirm that I do prefer Emrah's target on the Ananda Nanos, which is something that I did say to Ed, if he was to get convolution, I could send them. It's interesting because I like Harman and I like Emrah's target, but it is still something that you're tweaking, because I remember on the HEs, I think I preferred Harman with the HEs, but the Ananda Nanos is like something that you do use a lot, and we do love the Nanos. And we are very happy that Ed Thorne is now in the Ananda Nano family. It took a bit of time.
Emrah, was it you that got Paul onto Hifimans?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good work. All right, cool.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming
Welcome
around
to the family, man. Welcome
Now,
to the team.
In regards to headphones, because that is something that Emrah does get asked a lot, and I get asked, what's Emrah using just now?
Steven Slate VSX, Ananda Nano's RE Organic from Hifiman. And I have a few pairs in-ears that I use. Oracle MK3 and Monarch MK3. They are just technologically just perfect. That's actually how many headphones I use, actually. I have collections. Sometimes I get bored, I get bored using Ananda Nanos and I switch something else.
So how much of your mix translation checking is done on headphones versus in-ear monitors versus your Eve audio speakers?
When I'm done, I keep testing, listening everything from a few times until I don't send it to a client until I make sure. But I don't do any more car testing or something because I know if it sounds good on Ananda Nano, it's good.
Yeah. And I think for anybody that is ever thinking that me and Ed are waffling a lot of bollocks, there is the professional engineer who got me onto Ananda Nano. Is genuinely, and again, Ed can confirm this as well, when we say it's like wearing a pair of PMCs on your head, it is the best low end you will ever hear. It is the most detailed low end. It is so incredibly fast. The transients are amazing. The detail is amazing. You just got to be careful that you don't let the details kind of distract you at first. Because I do remember, Emma, that was something that you said when you first got them to me, was that you're like, wow, Paul, I could hear like every like click, every S, every bit of detail, and you had to kind of rein yourself back a little bit because your first instinct was, I can hear it. Okay, I'm going to have to tame that. I'm maybe going to need to work on that a little bit. How long did it take you till you kind of learned the nanos to where you knew, right, leave that alone, right, but focus kind of on this?
You're pretty much right because they are pretty dangerous headphones.
Yeah.
If you use incorrectly. Why they are dangerous? Because there's too much details. Like you don't have to pay attention. There's no way to fix those details. But it's pretty hard to focus on the bigger picture. That's why I use the VSX because they are not detailed, but they let you to focus on bigger picture.
This literally sounds like the same comparison between PSIs and Amphions. Hyper focus on the detail versus bigger picture. And
That's
used with caution, along with another set, they can be very useful, yeah.
And paying attention to too much details, it could kill the vibe. That's why I don't use multiple filters on duress, because you're gonna focus on too many resonances. You're gonna kill the vibe. But the transient of and low end, when you switch from Ananda Nanos to something else like a dynamic headphone, from Audis to a dynamic headphone, doesn't matter. I have everything. I have a wall of fame here. Maybe I don't know if you can see me. From planar magnet to dynamic, it's like you have this much low end, right, in dynamic headphones, and when you put on a planar magnet, it's getting like this, right? It's like stretching the low end, and you hear every single fucking note in the low end. Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, the Hifiman Nanos, I think, are £480 in the UK. So again, if we're in India, we're talking about 3 months' wages.
I thought they were 600 and they went down in price. That's fucking amazing.
I'm seeing them on Google right now for £480.
That's a steal. Jesus Christ.
But they have summer sale.
But compared to some of the other planar magnetic headphones that we have, for example, Paul, I won't name them, but the £3,000, the low end on these things destroys every other headphone and most speakers, I've heard.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
If I'm honest, it's remarkable what they're doing. And the top end's good as well, isn't it? The clarity and punch is there for sure.
They literally own the low end.
Oh, yeah, totally.
In headphones.
So what do you 100%. Get out of IEMs that you don't get on a headphone or a speaker?
It's a different experience, It's just not as simple IEMs that I have on my ears right now. But if you have proper IEMs, like I think Paul and I have Monarch T Audio Monarch MK3, and they have two dynamic drivers on low end, separated from each other, and controlling different things. And I guess it was 6 BA balanced armature and 2 electrostatic high end. Like, I don't know if you ever heard an electrostatic high end.
Yeah.
But electrostatic on their own in headphones are not that good. They always lack some kind of deep subs low end. But using electrostatic drivers on a high end, that speed, because the technology is just, they are hanging in between two magnets. They don't touch anything. There's no connection, right? They're just hanging, and that the movement, that speed, if you listen to a dynamic headphones, it has to move something, right? A driver has to be moved front and back. But electrostatic is just hanging there in between two magnets, just moving without touching anything.
Yeah, I have to say that I got the Oracle Mark III from companies called D-Audio. Linsel Audio set me up with them, and Emrah got me in touch with them. And he told me, Paul, these are probably the most tonally balanced in-ears that I've tried. And I have been doing a multi-track, me and Ed are going to be doing a multi-track. Can we say who we're including in that, Ed, or will we leave that as a surprise?
No, we've got Nicholas from Panorama Mixing and Mastering YouTube fame, and he coming on the channel, and he is joining us to do a mix of this track that we've got coming up. And I've heard his mix, and it's a little bit terrifying. So I might be revisiting mine. But we're going to have a 3-way comparison coming up soon. Exact date to be decided, but on the way. So we are going to get a fully professional mixing and master engineer's perspective and their mix to compare as well. I can't wait. That's going to be a fantastic episode, because Nick does loads of record label mixing and mastering in Australia. So it's going to be a really good reference point for Paul and myself.
Now you know that's coming up. Now, I intentionally did basically 90% of this mix on the Oracle Mark IIIs, because that's the best way to test something out, is to do a mix on them. And I put them in the Atmos room, because it is an Atmos mix. I'm doing mixes from scratch and working on the stereo fold down, and then getting stereo fold down to sound as good as it can, and then trying to get the Atmos to work with it. Now, as soon as I put the mix up in the Atmos room, tonally, I thought it sounded perfect. I didn't want to change the kick, I didn't want to change the bass, I didn't want to change the vocals, I didn't tonally want to change anything. And even the sound stage was like, yeah, I could just tweak that there, a little bit of a tweak there. Because sound stage has always been something that I've always struggled with cheaper IEMs. And yeah, I just find the Oracle Mark IIIs are just pretty exact. They're not, what they do is they kind of just tell you what you need to hear. And the vocals, I said to Emrah, I was like, I feel like the vocals are too forward and I'm struggling to mix them. But then when I put them on the speakers, I was just like, wow, this just works. I was really surprised at just how tonally accurate they were. I could judge compression on them, and I could really judge low end on them. I was really surprised, because I had these, so I was trying to do it quickly, doing the binaural on these. By the way, these don't work binaurally as much as they're sold that way. They don't work. They just don't work. And I had Sony's, and I had another pair of in-ears, and I could not judge the low end correctly. And when I had the Oracle Mark IIIs in my ears, I could just hear that the kick and bass wasn't working right. And I went to the bass, and I was like, right, okay, the bass is just a little bit boomy here. And I just went, right, I could hear it. 100 hertz, that's where it is. Took 100 hertz down, all of a sudden, the bass just kind of cleaned up, the kick had space, but I couldn't hear that on the other ones. And that to me was just right, okay, so not only am I getting transients, I can judge compression, I can judge everything else, even soundstage I could work on them. Now they are, I think, about £600, so they are expensive for for in-ears. But in terms of in-ears, they're the very first ones that I have opened up a mix on speakers and on my Ananda Nanos and Hifimans have been like, yeah, this just translates. I was really, really, really surprised, because on the Truth Ears that are £40, and the SimGot EM6Ls, I remember I did an in-ear mix on the Train where me and Ed had a podcast episode, and I remember I took it to London in Ed's studio, and I was like, oh my God, this mix just doesn't work. It just really didn't work. But again, I've done it with the Oracles, and these are probably the first time that I could say that you can mix on in-ears. But these are the first ones that I've found. Not tried every pair of in-ears, but I do think with in-ears, you probably do get what you pay for. And as Emrah has said, there's a lot of technology that has to go into in-ears because it amazes me. When you read the marketing and you're like, how the fuck have they got all these drivers and little mini subwoofers and they're tiny? And it's crazy.
It's how they not only nail, but how they measure the phase and
crazy,
the time
man.
alignment between these things in a canal about 2 millimeters apart. So we're talking generic fitting in-ears here, aren't we? We're not talking the molded versions, which you live musicians will be familiar with, I'm sure. So I'm inspired now to mix on IEMs, but I'm also inspired to hear about your room acoustics, because I believe you took a 7-meter long room and put meters worth of low-end control at the back of your room for mixing, didn't you?
Yeah, that's crazy. It's actually designed by a guy who actually designed real professional cinemas. I just want to have the perfect low-end control. When you get up and go around in the room, and you always hear that bass is just getting boomy or get lost. The moment you hit room modes, it gets lost, or either gets a little bit boosted, and I hate that. I asked him that how we can fix this, and he was like, "Yeah, let's build a big fucking giant bass trap behind you." And I'm like, "How is gonna go?" And he was like, "Yeah, let me build a room. I don't know if you can see me behind me. It's there's a curtain, and behind that it's like 1.5 meter long extra room filled with rock wool."
Wow.
And there's holes, and there's a big hole behind that curtain, right? You don't see it, but it's a hole. That's all the bass sucked in and stayed there. This is how I control the room, and even when I go around in the room and walk around, I don't hear that, bass boost or bass lows, and it's just tight. Everywhere is tight.
So let me get this right. You've basically got a letterbox almost. How tall is that? Like what's the gap behind the curtain to let the bass into the room behind with all the absorption?
It's, I don't know, it's 1.5 meters to 50, I guess. It's like a big giant hole, right? And that's where the audio goes in and stays there. Because we actually built a bass trap room that holds the bass.
Wow.
In a room.
I've never heard of anyone doing that.
Crazy, yeah. It's mental.
And once I realized that room is good, and I decided to switch my speakers from the bigger ones, 12-inch. I can handle bigger speakers here, no problem.
And you're mixing on the Eve Audios.
Eve Audio 3012.
And in terms of the level, because that's something that you taught me a long time ago, and I didn't realize how quiet I was listening. What kind of SPL levels do you listen at with your headphones and also with your speakers? Because I imagine it's going to be the same consistency, but with having a 12-inch driver, a woofer in there, I imagine again it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of SPL.
It's a PA speaker, a 12-inch woofer.
So what are you thinking in terms of SPL levels? Is it something that you care about, or is it something you just go, right, crank it, and how loud it is how loud it is? That you just use your own taste for how loud you want it to be?
I can go pretty fucking loud with these speakers.
I can imagine.
Saying 130 decibels on their website. I mean, a jumbo jet engine is about 140. 130. I don't think I've ever been to a live gig that's that loud.
They're massive, Ed. They're gigantic.
Yeah, man,
to put it in perspective, there's a picture on their website of them next to the Neumann 310s, and they're about 4 times bigger than those.
That's crazy.
It comes with the PAL. I sent you a picture that the guy who brought them here. He ran like he was like, I had to go, because he didn't want to carry, because the one of them is just 50 kilograms, right?
one speaker's 50 kilos.
50
crazy,
kilos, man.
Wow.
It's just, that there's no way to carry them as a single person. And they are loud. They are big, they are loud and proud. But the issue is that I don't listen too loud, so I love my ears, and I have to take care of them because I'm 45 and it's just getting pretty nasty, louder sound. And that's the good thing, if you have a good room, this is the perfect advice I can give. If you have good room that can handle the sound, the bigger the better. The bigger the speakers, the better.
And with speakers, where do you sit on crossovers? I noticed the eaves are at 220 and 1800, which is similar to the Amphion crossover point. I think they cross over at 1600. Because there's a theory of whether to having the crossover at 3.2, which I think the PSIs do, 3.5 that the ATCs have, and there's another company that do it at 3.6K, versus having them lower than the primary vocal diction frequency range. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they nailed it because all the low end that you actually need, the sub and the bass and kick area, the life of the low end. Imagine it's 800 watts RMS per speakers on the low end, 260 hertz from zero. That's solid.
So what are you hitting around? Are you hitting around between 80 and 85 dB SPL?
Yeah, in everything.
Yeah.
I don't go. We talk about that topping. We were pretty much the same level, right?
Minus 18. By the way, Emrah got the DX7 Pro Plus. Then Tariq finally caught him. He had to get it.
Yeah. What do you think?
He poisoned me, man.
He poisons everyone with his quality chi-fi filth that works really well, and his plugins that are genius that he finds.
It's just they are amazing. I mean, it's clean.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking to a big picture with a lot of depth in it. It's just amazing. And I got A70 Pro with 17,000 milliwatts
for a headphone amp. It's just
for a headphone amp.
I know.
Yeah, it can blow up everything. Actually.
Now, I think something that's very important to just mention very quickly is something that I've mentioned on the channel a lot before. Now, what we find a lot of times with headphone amps, and especially with DACs, is that many people tend to prefer a coloured sound. But when they hear something like the topping, which is like clean as a whistle, all of a sudden it's sterile, it's boring, when actually it's brutally honest. And that was something that Emrah had said to me. He was like, Paul, this DX7 Pro Plus is brutally honest. It shows you everything, and it is so clean. And do you think that's something that is obvious? In my opinion, it's really important. Do you think that's something that many people don't speak enough about, is how important it is to have as clean a monitoring system as possible? From your headphone amp to your DAC to the power, everything should be as clean as physically possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something actually is maybe perceived as negative, but is actually positive. I have to be honest. These are pretty fucking boring headphone sound, like pretty fucking boring DAC to use. But if you are any audio engineer, these are the right ones, because your job is make things exciting, not boring, and you don't want to mess up with the color. They actually have color options, right?
There's like a transistor thing or something. Yeah.
And when I switched to transistors and tube, it was like they are pretty much colored right now.
Yep.
And I can work with them. And the moment I switch, I turn off the color option, and I feel that depth,
Yep.
Like infinite depth I can hear. That's giving me the signal that these are the right headphones DAC amp combination for engineers. But if you're a audiophile or if you hate boring stuff, don't use it.
And that's something that many people, I think, get confused
don't
about.
Understand.
Many people sit there and think, it's got to sound exciting. I went, no, it's your job. And I think something that MSM taught us was, again, when he's got if he needs to make a mix exciting, he goes to the Neumanns, because the Neumanns are sterile, they're boring, they're flat. But dull, but he knows that if he needs to make something exciting, then that's the system for him.
DistroKid hosts a range of visually engaging social media promotion tools to help your release stand out from the crowd. Creative and colorful social media cards incorporate your artwork to help your release stand out. These are free to download and can be highly effective promoting your release. DistroKid also offer mini videos, which are free, short, customizable videos incorporating your artwork and a short clip of your track. And if this wasn't enough, DistroKid also have a tool to create a Spotify canvas generator, which is the video that plays in the background when you're playing a song on Spotify. Simply choose a theme and choose from dozens of different creative artwork concepts. These are free to use and great for engaging your audience, available on DistroKid. For an additional subscription of $8.25 a month, you can get your music videos distributed to Apple Music, Vivo, and Tidal, and you'll keep 100% of your royalties. With DistroVid from DistroKid. All right, the time has come for some controversy on the channel because Emrah volunteered this section of the podcast. He has some audio misconceptions that he wants to put out to you to dispel some myths. Take it away, Emrah.
Yeah, I'm gonna need more whiskey.
Okay.
I know people are gonna kill me. The amount of bullshit going on in the audio industry is just incredible. In Sweden, we have a rule. We call it lagom. It's not too much or it's not too little. It's in between. If you pay attention to too much details, if you pay attention too little to details, you're gonna fail. But keep everything in the middle. Just right amount.
That's a good analogy for life, because if you underthink, you don't get anywhere, and if you overthink, you're paralyzed by overthinking and you don't get anywhere.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. The best mix you have ever done, it's average. Average should be your target. You don't have to target perfection. Yeah, perfectionism is a killer for a vibe.
Perfection is baggage, as Em says.
Yeah. It's just your enemy. It happens to me all the time. If I mix a song or master a song, and after 6 months or a few months later, back to the mix, and I'm like, oh, I could do it better. I could fix this issue that nobody hears. It's not going to be perfect. The room is not going to be perfect. Life is not going to be perfect as an engineer. But that's the good part, right? That's how it's keeping us alive. If you keep it right amount for everything, for your equipment, for your mixing decisions, for your plugins and everything. Too much attention to the aliasing, too much attention to the intermodular distortion, low end or phase, and it doesn't work. It's just the biggest misconception. You don't have to be perfect.
So in a world where we advocate and discuss high quality headphones and DACs and headphone amps and speakers, where we can hear, nowadays with the technology, we can hear infinitesimal detail in audio. How do you personally find that balance between not over mixing and not under mixing, i.e., not overthinking and not underthinking, finding the average? How have you disciplined yourself to find that, to navigate that?
That's the hardest part, because I feel like I'm pretty geeky about audio. It's my life, and I always train, mix training. I do mix training every day, no matter what, if I have work or not, and just to keep me alive, just a football player who train every day to perform better on the pitch. You never know if it's going to come as a perfect opportunity for your life, as an album, for example, or an artist somehow finds you. That's where I get geeky, but I don't apply it on my work. I just skip. I know that a plugin I use create too much aliasing, but I use anyway. I use it wisely. I see a lot of people using a vocal chain, right? Vocal mixing. 15 plugins, like 10 plugins to mix a vocal. There must be something wrong, you have to think.
Yeah, and that's something that Serbin talked about, wasn't it? That in the interview that he did, he was like, when he was getting so many tracks, and he was something you could tell he was passionate about. He was like, all these producers, like they're giving me like 12 plugins, they're maxing out all the inserts in Pro Tools, and I'm like, I'm having to basically figure out what the sound that they've got, and then do it with like 2 plugins. And he went, genuinely, you only need like 2-3 plugins, absolute max. And you can tell it was something he was getting really passionate about, because it was almost like, we've got all these tools at our disposal, but we need to use them. And I think that's the issue that people have, is that people get sucked in by the plugin market and the audio market, and they're like, oh, because I bought it, I need to use it to justify that purpose. So-and-so's using it now. So-and-so uses it on vocals. And it's something I've seen so many times, is that people's vocal chains will be a combination of like 6 different engineers. CLA does that, and Serbin, well, nobody knows what Serbin does, but so-and-so does that, and Jack Joseph Puig does that, and Manny does that. And before you know it, you're like 12, 13 plugins trying to combine what maybe one mixer uses 2 plugins for. You know what I mean? It is absolutely crazy. And it's something that Emrah taught me very, very early on. I used to tell him a plugin change, and he was like, bro, take that out, take that out, take that out. And I remember once I was doing a mix, and he was like, bro, take all your plugins off, and just, I think he said, right, just listen to it and bypass it, level match it. Just do an EQ, and then just do a little bit of compression. Just do a little bit of that. And I think I'd use 3 plugins. And he says, right, tell me what you think now. And I was like, oh, vocal sounds better. And it was him that taught me about less is more, because I remember, I can't remember when you did it, Emrah, but you told me, because Emrah's got a very, very large community, especially in Turkey, very large. And I remember you did it was a live stream, and you took a mix, and it was like genuinely just EQ, compressor, and I think a bit of reverb, and that was all you basically used. And people were like, this can't be possible. This can't sound that good by just using like genuinely like 3 fucking plugins.
But that's what
like,
Clear Mountain did on the
Yep.
desks in the 80s.
Yeah.
EQ, compressor, reverb, maybe some tape.
I'm not saying that using 10 plugins is wrong, or it doesn't matter how many plugins you use, but just try to use less plugins and try to reach the results, to get the results. That's what make you a perfect engineer, you know. You use less tools, it's going to be less intermodular distortion, less aliasing.
Yep.
That's the problem, yeah. The more you use it, the more muddy it gets.
And less CPU power.
Yeah, and CPU power and everything.
And then you can use more plugins, so we win, don't we?
Yeah, that's the issue. And I've seen a lot of people talking about paying attention too much to unnecessary details, like you have to use 32 bits. 32 bits audio, 24 bits audio. It's not the same as processing precision. This is the biggest, I think, misunderstanding in audio engineering. Imagine a DAW, you have fader, you have gain control, right? The most, precision in the fader movements, it's 0.01 dB on Cubase, I guess, and Reaper. If you're gonna move a fader, you can move 0.01, and the maximum, the lowest amount dB you can hear tell the difference, 0.2 dB. It's beyond that precision, and you use 32 bits because you think it's gonna represent more dB, right? More precision in dB. Bit depth in audio it's dB wise. There is nothing else, no more details, no more clarity, or no more resolution in that.
So same as sample rate. People think, 192 is more samples per second. There's not. There's 2 samples per frequency. Yep. It just goes higher, and that helps with some things, but not what people think.
Let me ask you a question. Maybe it's going to open your mind. Let's say if I'm going to sample a 1 kilohertz signal tone, if I use 8 kilohertz as sample rate, can I capture it?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I use 96 kilohertz, does it gonna sound different?
It'll be the exact same.
That'll be the exact same. You can export a 24-bit audio and just clip the hell out of it. Like you can clip it like plus 100 dB and put back into the session and just revert back to original audio like it never clipped before. It's data, audio data. It's not real audio. There's no actually digital audio. It's just the data. And everything works in digital audio is just adding things, You always add. You don't remove anything. Even if you cut, you actually add to the audio.
And I suppose that brings us, obviously, when we're talking about the digital domain. Now, you are massively, massively in the box. Now, I would say fully in the box. I suppose the analog style workflow for somebody as busy as you would be an absolute pain in the arse. Because, you've got to do recalls. Say on an average day, how many songs are you working on roughly, say, a day?
I do work daily basis on new song. Maybe 300, 400, more than 400 sometimes. I guess I checked in July and it was 232 songs.
So you're constantly busy. So you imagine even in the half of the year, 232 songs. Imagine you were analog and you, again, having to do recalls. That's the one thing that puts me off. I know analog is getting, to a certain point. Ed's got, I think it's the Wes Audio, is it, Ed, that you've got that you can use a plugin with? Is there there's one of them, that you've got that you can use a plugin with?
Yeah, the digital recallable stuff.
But I think it's only so many of them do that. And I think that is the worry. I think that was some of the Serban. Again, I'm only saying that because I was listening to the Serban interview today that they did on Facebook years ago that nobody knew about. It was actually Tyrone. Remember Tyrone that we met in Gearfest did?
Yeah. No, I know.
He sent it to me and I was like, how did nobody know it? And I sent it to Emrah and he was like, how is it that we don't know this interview with arguably the greatest mix engineer of all time? And, that's what he was talking about. Kind of talking about, the reason why he, went, fully in the box, went into the computer side of it and, went fully Pro Tools was because from a workflow perspective, the time it took for these people to do recalls, like they would have an engineer with a recall sheet. And the thing was, you were never guaranteed that the mix was going to sound exactly 100%. I think it would be probably theoretically impossible to get exactly the same.
You turn on a desk at the start of the day and the room's 20 degrees. At the end of the day, it's 28 degrees when the desk's been on. It operates differently. I noticed that in my studio. Ever so slightly, one or two things sound a bit different, but I don't care enough to care. Analog scares me in terms of recall, but I have the fortunate disposition of not having loads of clients, so I can afford to use analog as a bit of fun. I got into it because I wanted to learn the sound because I hadn't really had any analog experience. So that's been useful. And also it's fun, but I most of the clients I have had, they've all been in the box, if I'm honest. So there may be a cull of some of this if I swap my desk out for a smaller one, which will hopefully facilitate better speaker placement and less of a null.
Yeah. And in regards to, say, workflow and to get, again, recalls, I know you've got an assistant. What kind of system do you have in place that allows you to work on so many tracks and be able to keep that wheel turning?
Yeah, I have two assistants. It was three, but not two.
Can you break down what they're doing to help you?
They mostly organizing the session, and they bring the mix to a certain degree in level, and sometimes they do the work. I take their stems, mixed stems, and do the rest.
And how long do you say, have you got a set time that you say that's probably as long as I want to mix for? Is it maybe mix for 20 minutes, take a break, another 20 minutes, and then you get to maybe 3 hours of, it's a really difficult mix, and do you just say, right, okay, that's me done, I move on to another mix? Do you have kind of time schedules in your head that you go, right, okay, I need to take that amount of a break, I've been working too long on that, I need to move to something else?
No, I don't have any time schedule. I continue that I'm done. There are sometimes I've been just leaving the mix if I can't, get the results, and move on to something new to fresh up my mind. I just go out to my backyard and take a fresh air and not slate fresh air. take a fresh take a fresh air and just and come back and try something else. Sometimes good ideas come when you're free, when you free your mind. I get good recordings and good mixes, productions, but sometimes I get wreckage. Just you have to clean. Just create. You just have to create magic out of it. Sometimes producers tell me that or a rap artist, for example, is this my song actually? This is how different they sound after mixing. Sometimes you have to be creative, add a lot of things, reverbs and some movement, some saturation, some exciting stuff in the mix. To just be creative and help production to hold together. And sometimes you don't have to do it. Sometimes you just mix. Just a few EQ moves and production is done. But you always add something, and there's no time schedule for that.
How do you deal with it when people try and say push you to be like, no, I kind of want that mix done kind of tomorrow, and you're like, well, I was going to maybe get it done end of the week. Is it a thing where you have to be flexible in that way? Are you in a place in your career where you could kind of have those conversations and be like, no, that'll be done when it's done?
If they have rush, you have to do it, man. There's no way to get away with it. Otherwise, you are an employee. You just you won't be hired next time. You know the tools. You know how fast you can be, and you know what they want. And that's if you don't want to mix, you won't be hired next time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we get mixes that is going to be sent to Spotify, for example, that day, same day, and you have 2 hours, 3 hours to complete, and that includes revisions, if any.
Surely that's an example of setting a boundary and being like, look, guys, let's be realistic. We can do this tomorrow, but I need to spend 4 hours mixing it because you've sent me a train wreck. My assistants have already worked on it. Then it needs to get mastered. Well, then we need revisions. Then it needs to go to mastering. Then you can put it out. Surely there's a point in that example where you're just like, yeah, look, we're not going to get the quality out that you want in 2 hours. We need 4, say.
Yeah, but that's the thing, not all those big engineers you hear, you admire, you're jealous about, they all did the same thing. If you have some boundaries, if you have some, now I have this and you can pass through, I can do it. I don't have any time to do it. And then you fucked up. You won't be get hired next time.
And is that, I take it, the brutal nature of the audio world, where the music industry, where it is genuinely like you are a service, and it's like, right, if you want the gig, do it in 2 hours. If you don't want it, then don't fucking do it. Is that just the way that, as brutal as it is?
Yeah, and that's probably not going to happen if you're an average mixer, in the middle of your career, and you don't get too much. You don't have too much customers, and you have time, right? But if you're working on the clock, you have to do it because somebody else gonna do it.
Yeah, that's something that we've heard quite a lot, and I've heard that from a lot of engineers. And it seems to be that same phrase of, if you don't do it, somebody else is in line to do it. And as soon as you let that one producer down, that one artist down, or what they feel that you've let them down, they'll just go to somebody else. And it can be as brutal as that. I think it was Streaky that was talking about that, Ed, if I recall. He was talking about that way of, that's why he would get up at 2 o'clock in the fucking morning, even though he had young kids, and he was getting up at 2 in the morning to do a revision for somebody in America.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, if I didn't do it, then I wouldn't get the gig. And it's crazy because I know, again, Emrah, you've got kids, you've got a family, and how do you balance that? I mean, how do you, because my wife said to me, Paul, if you got out of the bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, you were like, oh, babe, I've got to do revisions for some guy in Austria. She'd be like, I don't think so. And I'd be like, well, that's the world that we live in. She just said, that wouldn't be the world that I'd be living in. You'd be living in that world on your own.
Say, you're living in Laura's world, mate.
Yeah, no, totally. So I take it, I mean, how do you balance? This is something I found really interesting with a lot of engineers that have families, is how do you manage to balance that expectation of the music industry with, you know, your own life balance.
Yeah. Ed, you're not married, right?
No.
That's good.
I
That's
know.
good choice.
Everybody
That's
said
good, man.
that.
That's good, man. Don't do the same mistake that everybody else does. And if you don't mix, if you don't get up and like Streaky does in the 2 a.m. in the morning, somebody else gonna do it. Because nobody cares about you as an engineer. Nobody gives a fuck about your life. You have Paul has kids. Paul has wife, and it's middle of the night. Let's wait. We can wait. It's not a big problem. It's not work like that. They are pretty brutal, you know. They are cruel, and they don't give a fuck about your life, and it's just gonna be okay. Let's find somebody else who can do it.
But is that the audio industry and the engineers as a whole allowing themselves to be taken advantage of like that? Because in no other profession, you know,
true. I know what
you
mean.
work in finance, 5:05, your email gets ignored till 9 a.m. Deal with it. No one cares. But only in audio and in live, you know, events as well. I get asked on. I have a thing where I have an out of office thing on a Sunday on WhatsApp, and there's about 15 people excluded from it, but everybody else gets a very polite, I'm not in the office today in an effort to have a day off a week. I'll get back to you tomorrow. That gives me the opportunity to pick and choose who I respond to on Sundays, which I need as a sacred day off, one day a week. That's fine with what I do because gigs are usually a few days or weeks in the future. If it's urgent, I can obviously reply, but that's one of those things I need to do for my sanity. But as a collective, all musicians and mix engineers are terrible at setting boundaries. Hence, prices are so shit for everyone. And hence, people are expected to get up at 2 a.m. and do a mix revision. I think it's out of order. But everyone is allowing it, therefore facilitating that expectation. I get the reality of there's always somebody else to do it. That's the problem. There's always somebody to do the gig for cheaper. There's always somebody to do the sound job, hiring out the gear for less money. I get it. And it's a balance. I battle with it on a daily basis. But there has to be some collective element of everyone saying, all right, guys, we need to look after our own health here, mental health, family health.
That's right. You know where things get interesting. It's that if you start delivering something good, if they believe that you are the only one you can do it that good, and they know that only you can deliver it. If they left it to somebody else, they know they're gonna get shit. That's where you get respect, and that's where you can tell people, "I will do it tomorrow. I'm busy."
Okay, I get what you mean.
But there's only one person who's in that position.
At your starting, if you are starting your career and you don't have too much clients that you can simply replace, you know, you don't mind to lose a gig or something, because there's always coming to new ones. And
yeah, I guess the difficult thing is, besides the one person who, I think we all know who that is, probably don't need to mention his name, who people will go purely to him because they believe he will deliver better than anyone else. The sad fact is, as you've said, Emrah, or as you said as well, Paul, there is another name after you in the phone book, and if not, there's probably 4 or 5.
If it's not Serban, it's Spike. If it's not Spike, it's Manny, or it's Jason, or they're all fucking
they're all on the call sheet, so that if one can't do it, the reality is the artist probably doesn't know, or maybe that's unfair to them, likely doesn't know, most likely doesn't care, or it's not their decision and the A&R doesn't care who mixes it. As long as it's one of those 5 names, worst case, one of the next 5 names, as long as it's done by tomorrow, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's kind of the sad thing of audio, which is indicative of an industry-wide lack of value on what any of us do. And I see this on gigs. You turn up to a gig and people are like, you get how much for 2 hours work? Well, it's 2 hours work minus the last 20 years of practice and lessons and experience that I've got into this, that's delivering this performance. Same with mixing, you know, it's the last however many years of studying, practicing, buying the gear, owning the gear, networking, whatever, all those things. It's not just $500 for a mix. It's the decades of work that's gone into it behind. But the average person on Spotify who has access to every song ever recorded at the touch of a button on a screen doesn't care, because it's just, there's no value to it. Same with photography and Instagram. There's no value to it anymore, which is a shame. So I guess we've got to find our own peace with that and basically be as good as so good you can't be ignored.
But I think another good point that I think, again, what Emrah and many other people have taught me, and probably best to end the podcast with this on a positive note, because we are starting to get a little bit depressing.
My bad.
Reality is depressing. But something that, again, Emrah and many other people have taught me is, yes, you have your craft side of it, but you've also got your artist relations side. That if you can build a relationship with an artist, if you can build a relationship with producers, and, you know, you could be the best mixer in the world, but if you're an arsehole, then guess what? You will find people that don't want to work with you. And I've always been taught that, you know, in a sense, you know, the customer is king. And, you know, if you can adapt to them and, you know, you could work with their needs and you can, you know, work with them and you build that trust over time, as Emrah was saying earlier, then you will find that you will start to get that value. It's just that, obviously, as Ed said, in a world that we are in today, which is so massively competitive, it's very, very difficult. However, I know that the best mixers, you know, Emrah included, you know, in the world, you know, they have spent a lifetime on working with clients. You know, there are clients that Emrah has that will only go to Emrah. One, because they trust his work, but two, because he has a good relationship with them. And I think that if you focus on those two things, your skill, one, just focus on being the best that you can. And as Emrah said, even, you know, if you've not got a client, keep mixing. You don't get better at something unless you keep that brain ticking. Same like you said about being a footballer or anybody in sport. Again, if you're a marathon runner, you don't just go, yeah, I'm not running a marathon, sorry, yeah, I'm just going to not run for 3 weeks. No, you have to keep on getting out of the house every day to run a marathon. And again, you've got the other side, which is, you know, being personable and being a nice person and, you know, being accommodating and realizing that, you know, yes, you might need to bend over a little bit, in other words, you know what I mean, to kind of accommodate the client. But, you know, once you accommodate to them so much and they build that trust, then before you know it, you could have a career like Emrah and, you know, many other people that we know, because even, you know, we have guys like, you know, MSM and, you know, Streaky and, you know, Prizzy, you know, they have a lot of Tour Medina. I mean, especially in the Latin world, you know, they have clients that will only go to them because of the work that they've put in and, you know, the relationship that they've built. So I think that's where me and Ed are. You know, me and Ed are trying to get the skills right. And again, I do believe that in terms of me and Ed's personalities, that we are going to build good relationships. And yes, there are going to be times where, you know, it maybe just doesn't work. Vitsa made a very good comment on it before, where he was like, I think he was basically talking about cancelling clients. Sometimes you've just got to go, right, this isn't working. Right, okay, there's your money back. Move on. That relationship's dead in the water. But
I feel like I have a good radar at the moment for people who are potentially going to be problematic. It's usually the ones who don't want to pay very much money.
Yes,
that's my experience. On that bombshell, Emrah, my last question to you is, so you can have the last word, is what advice would you give to myself and Paul and people in our similar positions who are trying to forge a professional career in mixing?
About all things we talk about, the things we talk about. We were at the studio with Andrew Sheps in Stockholm, and he said there are mostly, you know, the especially rich artists who pay 5 engineers at the same time, send the same song to them, so they all mix the same song, like 5 different mixes, and she picked the best one, and they all get paid. They all lose the job sometimes, and one of them lucky enough to be picked and have credit on it, right? So this is how things are working. Just don't compare yourself to somebody else, and sometimes you can be not perfect mix engineer. But your personality, your character can get you gig. Because I don't want to deal with a shitty person, even if he's good. Like he is like rock solid mixing, but his personality is shit, right? Just be nice to clients, and I would also say that just don't collect artists, collect producers.
Yeah, something Nicholas said to us a long time ago. Yeah.
If you collect producers, if you have good relationship with producers, you always get gigs. Because artists don't care about who is mixing their song.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent advice on that bombshell. That has been a insightful and fascinating episode. Thank you, Emrah, for coming on the show. I'm sure we'd love to get you on again because I noticed there was one or two things we missed off our list, but the episode is getting long. So there may be a part 3 to this. Don't forget to check out part 1. If we remember, we'll put a link in the description to that, Paul. Let's try and do that. Thanks to DistroKid for sponsoring the podcast. You can still get 30% off your first year's subscription using the VIP code in the video description and show notes. And thank you to Baby Audio as well for continuing to sponsor the podcast with their creative plugins. Use code WAT15 at checkout on their website to get 15% off any order. It's been emotional. Thanks, gents. See you very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.